Nigel and his wife Fiona are a British couple celebrating their 7th anniversary on a cruise ship heading for India via Istanbul. Fiona goes to the bathroom, but takes longer. Nigel inquires and finds his wife consoling an extremely beautiful young woman of French origin called Mimi. Later at night, Nigel goes to the bar and sees Mimi dancing. A while later, she sits next to him at the bar. Nigel asks her if she is all right, but she feigns she doesn't know what he is talking about, but later reveals she is teasing him and remembers him. She asks him to dance with her, but Nigel turns her down. After failing to amuse her, at her request, Mimi darts off to her cabin. After his drink, Nigel goes to observe the sea on the deck and is joined by a man in a wheelchair who already knows his name. Nigel is obviously taken aback and asks the man if they have met before, but the man warns him of Mimi. She's a walking man-trap, he says. He also tells him he is the husband and shows him his paralyzed legs. The man invites Nigel to his cabin saying, "You are the listener I have been looking for." The man starts narrating his story. On a bus traveling between Montparnasse and Port de Lilas in Paris, France, a man reading a newspaper sees a beautiful young woman in a red dress. When the ticket checker reaches the girl, he then asks the young woman for a ticket which she fails to locate. The man reading the newspaper slips her his ticket. Soon after, the man and the ticket checker get off, and as the bus continues, the young woman stares at him from the back seat. The man is Oscar and the girl Mimi. With each passing day, Oscar's wonderment of the young woman on the bus makes him go mad. He stalks the bus every day hoping to meet the girl again, but he does not. Even the bus drivers are now familiar with him. One night, while having dinner with a date, Mimi comes to take their order. They instantly recognize each other. As she leaves for the kitchen, Oscar barely can control himself and follows her and agree on a date for tomorrow. The next day at 10:30 p.m., they meet at her dance school and later on go for dinner. They spend the rest of the night outside until dawn. Oscar tells her he has been looking all over for her. She says she hoped they would meet again and showed him the ticket. They go to his place and make love in front of the fireplace. They do not leave the apartment for 3 whole days. She resigns from her waitressing job so they can spend more time together. She adores him wholeheartedly and looks up to him, literally. The first crack in the relationship happens when Mimi insists on shaving Oscar. As expected, she cuts him. Back on the cruise liner, Nigel finds the narration unsettling and leaves. In the morning, the two couples have breakfast together. Mimi teases Nigel's leg with her foot under the table. Mimi and Oscar's sexual excursions intensify as they dabble in BDSM. Holed up in the apartment for weeks on end, more cracks start to open. Oscar suggests that they go out more and meet friends, but it does not end well. Oscar flirts with her roommate, and in anger, Mimi dances provocatively with another man. Oscar can't take it and goes home. When Mimi gets home, she begs him not to leave her. They continue their BDSM sessions, but they are not getting it right, and Oscar reveals he is disillusioned by the whole thing. Nigel no longer enjoys listening to the story because of his prudishness. As he goes to dinner, he bumps into Mimi, who invites him to her cabin at 5 p.m. to tell her side of the story. Nigel is astounded. He joins his wife and an elderly couple to play poker, only to leave at 5 p.m. to go to Mimi's cabin. He enters Mimi's dark cabin and goes to the bed to see the figure under the blankets, only for Oscar to reveal himself laughing and Mimi dashing out of the bathroom, also in stitches. Nigel is visibly upset. Oscar tells him it was Mimi's idea to get him to come back and hear the rest of the story because it will help his chances with her. Nigel is taken aback, but stays to hear the rest of the story. Oscar begins to resent Mimi, he no longer enjoys the sex. They start having too many fights. One night they go to an important dinner to meet his literary agent. Mimi accidentally spills a glass of wine on the literature. At home, they have a fight and Mimi packs her stuff to leave, but fails to exit the apartment and begs to stay. From then on they barely talk and are forcing things. Oscar starts missing going out. Things are so bad he hires a prostitute who comes to his home while Mimi is out. They have their first physical fight started by Mimi. It does not end well. She is hospitalized. They reconcile later that night and Oscar officially breaks it off. She says she understands and walks away. She starts stalking and phoning him, and one night camps on his doorstep and begs. Oscar gives in to her, but his aim is to frustrate her into leaving him by, for example, mistaking her name with another female name during sex, or talking with other females, or about other females over the phone. He also mocks her food and eats at a restaurant. Slowly he is succeeding as she begins to lose her looks due to stress. He also makes fun of her hairstyle when they go out and likens it to a neighbor's dog. She tells him she is pregnant. He convinces her to have an abortion. She agrees. While in the hospital he suggests, when she feels better they go on holiday, but Oscar fakes an illness and aborts, leaving Mimi to go on alone. Nigel gets out of the cabin and meets Mimi outside. She apologizes for the earlier stunt and proceeds to kiss him on the lips. Nigel proposes they hook up, but she gives him a condition, which is to hear the rest of the story. Oscar moves on with his life and continues his womanizing ways. Until he is hit by a car, he suffers a broken leg and a concussion that puts him in hospital for weeks. No one visits him until Mimi shows up looking sexy, but Oscar quickly tells her she must leave him alone. As she is leaving, she pulls him to the floor, further fracturing his leg and rendering him paralyzed from the waist down. She moves back into his flat, taking care of him, but in a not-so-nice way. The abuse causes Oscar to pee in his pants. Mimi also constantly reminds him of the abuse she endured at his hands. She leaves him in the tub full of cold water while she is on a long call, making him jealous while dancing with her colleague and later having sex with him. They get married and things get better, and Oscar finishes his story. Nigel leaves and goes to the deck and practices his speech to convince his wife to allow him to have a one-night stand. He goes to their cabin and finds her sleeping, drugged out. Nigel goes to join the New Year party and sees Mimi dancing. They dance together. Song changes to a ballad and they dance hand in hand. Nigel tries to kiss her, but she turns her head. Nigel asks why, since he now knows the entire story, but Mimi says not yet. Nigel professes his love for her. She tells him it's just a fantasy on a boring voyage. Unknown to Nigel, Fiona is now awake, standing beside Oscar, staring sternly at them. After Nigel joins his wife, Mimi takes center stage as she dances. Fiona joins her, and they kiss passionately. Unknown to Nigel, Fiona is now awake, standing beside Oscar, staring sternly at them. After Nigel joins his wife, Mimi takes center stage as she dances. Fiona joins her, and they kiss passionately.